I'm Christy Crabtree with International Rescue Committee, and this is Samira. As a manager of a gender-based violence case management program, she's provided services to women and girls in active conflict zones and natural disasters. Even with her vast experience, there's one conversation she dreads. It usually starts with a question from a donor or a coordination agency. For example, I've heard about high rates of sexual violence against women and girls in the community. Is this true? Can you share your specific data? Samira is conflicted. Sometimes this request is presented as a demand to justify that gender-based violence response services are even needed. Even while the Interagency Standing Committee and other guidelines state there's no need to verify gender-based violence is happening before providing services. What's worse is that Samira knows that harm can follow when data is shared irresponsibly. For example, if the data shows violence was perpetrated by a government actor, that can put survivors in real danger of retaliation. And there are also actors who, even with good intentions, can make situations worse. Consider if a humanitarian actor heard about a disclosure of violence and decided to check up on the survivor. Their heart might be in the right place, but showing up in a white organization-branded car in front of a survivor's house could increase the chances of harm or actualized stigma, especially if the survivor is experiencing domestic violence. She also knows that data on gender-based violence is open to misinterpretation and misuse. For example, if the data shows a decrease in cases from 1 month to the next, she knows some might interpret that as a reduced need for services. In reality, there are many reasons why cases may fluctuate. Reduced access or heightened stigma are two possibilities. But that's not the only problem. Samira knows survivors have rights, yet these rights are not meaningfully extended to displaced populations. So how can Samira, knowing the risks and that intervention should be data-driven, be responsible with the data entrusted to her? What would help her? The utopia is that she could easily generate safe, aggregate anonymized information about reported gender-based violence cases and use that actionable data to improve and inform her programming. So how do we get there? Well, we would need several things to be in place. First, standardized forms for our service and our sector, for example, gender-based violence case management. Second, common indicators like the number of cases or services provided and guidelines on interpretation of those. And finally, sector commitment to use this data, for example, across the gender-based violence sector. Standardized forms would lay the foundation for this work. This would mean a common minimum data set. From there, we could develop ready-set common indicators on program outputs and outcomes that could be scaled to multiple organizations or used across an entire sector. These indicators could be made even more useful by developing indices of potential interpretations for what they could mean and how to take action on them. That makes this information not only safe and well understood, but also actionable. Finally, this effort needs to be shared across the sector. It's not enough to go alone. With that in place, if Samira was asked to share data, she could. She could easily share the aggregate anonymized indicators automatically generated in her information system. And actors using the same interagency platform or the same minimum data set would have a shared understanding of what that data might mean. They would also know what other data points to triangulate for further interpretation. And they would have the guidance to help nudge them on possible interpretations. We are trying to resolve Samira's dilemma. With funding from ELRA's Humanitarian Innovation Fund, International Rescue Committee is working on a solution for Samira. We're contributing to the open source work of Primero, the protection-related information management system. We're utilizing the standardized gender-based violence sector forms, adding to them outcome information and automated anonymized output information, all of which is protected by role-based access. This facilitates the sharing of safe, actionable information across the GBV sector. Now, these ideas aren't just for protection actors. These ideas are a replicable model for other sectors and platforms. So what are the key takeaways? As a service provider with access to sensitive data, protect it. If you're uneasy or having doubts about a data request, ask for support from your supervisor. Second, advocate for sector-wide form standardization, or at least a minimum common data set. Then from there, you can develop and agree on ready set common indicators and contextual clues for their interpretation. Remember to focus not only on outputs, but also outcomes. And last, don't go on this journey alone. Interagency work advances the whole sector, which is particularly helpful when it comes to smart, responsible use of data. To stand behind the use of data in this sector, we have to commit to due diligence pertaining to the experiences that a survivor has shared with us in their effort to get aid. Our job is to do better with data in a responsible manner. I'm Christy Crabtree with International Rescue Committee. Reach out here for more information.